something that's very close to me also, which is say about legal internships. So I'm very excited to host the session. So say if any doubts, or say you want to ask me any questions pertaining to whatever I discussed today, you can probably take them up right after the session. I'll open the floor for chat box, or you can probably like unmute yourself if that is allowed, and you can ask questions. So today's topic is around legal internships and everything about them. I'll just I'll just quickly share my screen, and then I think we can begin. Okay, Neha, is my screen visible?
No, ma'am, it is not.
Has the screen is visible or not?
What's
Ma'am, it's visible now.
All right. So I'll just begin with the session. Just a second. All right. So today we are discussing about legal internships. So before we even begin with the session, why am I conducting this session? Or like just because I'm a career coach doesn't equip me to say conduct the session per se, right? So the point is that say even I was a law student, right? And I've been through 5 years of law school, and I've worked at two law firms, which is Shardul Amachan Mangaldas and Dua Associates. Post I graduated out of law school, and I also very briefly worked with an advocate in the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court. And after doing all of these things, I transitioned into becoming a career coach. However, the topic for today is not to say get a job per se, but only to focus on legal internships bit of it. And while I was in law school, it wasn't like that. Ever since I started my law school, I did everything perfect. Like it's not like that I started interning with law firms right in my second year of college, third year of college, etc. Or say I had everything figured out, right? Even I did a lot of internships. I explored a lot. I interned with advocates. I interned with human rights organizations. I interned with think tanks, etc. And post that, when I realized that my strength probably lies in corporate and maybe my interest also lies in corporate, that is when I picked up the corporate law sphere, and I started interning in that aspect, right? However, today there is a sort of confusion as to the fact that whether we can only intern, say, with a law firm or with a litigation chamber. I think to dispel that myth, sort of today, the today's session is being organized, and I'd like to take you through, first of all, that what are the different types of internships that one can do essentially. So obviously, like how I discussed, like the first two things are the law firms and litigation chambers. Third is an internship related to conveyancing, which is essentially like legal documentation. Fourth is judicial internship. Now this is very interesting. You can actually intern with a judge, which is like say a sitting high court or a sitting supreme court judge, and even a district court judge, for instance, and you can see how the law performs or functions from the other side of the bench, right? And this gives you a greater perspective. Say if somebody wants to enter litigation as their career option, this will give them a great perspective. If somebody is looking to say apply for judicial services, even for them it's like an eye opener that whether it's actually that fancy a job or is it just made to look like really great. Say if somebody wants to go for an LM, interning with a judge, again, like gives you a greater push in your application, right? So judicial internship is also something that you guys can consider. Next is, of course, internship with think tanks. Now, think tanks are bodies which, like sit and research on a lot of things, and they formulate their white papers, they formulate their own reports and send it out to the government for their consideration. For example, Now they can just simply sit and research and say send their recommendations to the government, or they can research and critique the existing policies of the government and give their own opinion on the same and send those out to the government. So essentially, a think tank is mostly involved in policy formulation, in research work, etc., and stuff related to that, right? Next internship is again very interesting. However, I didn't have the chance to do that myself. My friends did. A lot of my friends had interned with legal columns of newspapers. Now there are two things. Now every newspaper needs to anyway have like a lawyer on board, because otherwise if they keep publishing information which is say sometimes legally you can't publish any type of information, there has to be somebody to protect them, right? So you can always be a lawyer and still intern with the newspaper. However, there are certain legal columns also of certain newspapers. You can intern with them, and this will also give you a greater perspective on say how to curate facts into something, into a story like a reading piece, or say how to portray or point across to say a wider number of audience in like very less number of words, etc. So essentially, interning with a newspaper essentially teaches you how to marshal facts. Now this is very useful in the long run, say when you want to take part in moot court competitions, when you anyway want to say become say a litigator, when you are in a law firm, etc., when you're giving out a legal opinion, facts is something that you will always have to grapple with. So this is something that is extremely important, and ideally if you get the chance, you might as well just explore this. Next is, of course, internships with authors. Now, there are a lot of people, say senior advocates, who've turned into authors. There are generally also people, say, who write books on, say, say the legal aspects of the society or say the law generally. You can intern with them. That internship is obviously going to teach you drafting. That internship is going to enhance your writing skills. That internship is going to tell you how to research a lot on, say, the existing proposition that is being given to you. So doing that will also, broaden your horizon. Next internship is of course with, as a research assistant. So you can become a research assistant with anybody. Like, of course, like mostly with a professor or say, with a center. Now, say when you become a research assistant with a professor, you can of course, assist them in their ongoing research projects. You can assist them in their daily teaching, the teaching that they do daily in their colleges or their universities. And likewise, like research assistantships also give you a greater scope and say perspective towards how research is being done at a very large scale. And research assistantship is not only done say with a professor, it can also be done with say centers of various colleges. Like there's center for communication technology, there's center for IPR, there's center for technology law generally, there's center for corporate studies, etc., in various colleges. And of course, like you can intern with any of those centers as well, and it'll still be called a research assistantship. Of course, you can intern with an NGO. Now, see, now why an NGO internship is important for a law student is, first of all, law students are supposed to do a variety of internships, like at least a minimum of 4 to 5 internships while you are in the law school. So, interning with an NGO, of course, introduces you to the world of internship, and it introduces you to some very basic laws that you can grapple with, like say, the Domestic Violence Act or say the other similarly placed laws, which would be say the starting point of your introduction towards the law, and will tell you that there are different spheres of law in which you can venture into. Then, of course, you can intern with government sector undertakings. Like, say, for instance, you can intern with, say, ONGC. You can intern with other PSUs. You can intern with anybody that's a government department. Now, it can be, say, NHRC. It can be anything that pertains to the government, that is, say, run and directed by the government in whatever capacity. Maybe the majority stake of that organization is not with the government, but still remains like a government undertaking, right? So you can intern with them as well and see how say the government functions, and that department of the government functions essentially. So say for instance, you can intern with the, say, the Delhi State Legal Services Authority. That's going to give you say a sneak peek into the pro bono litigation that happens, and how various rights of people are being prevented and protected, and they are being empowered through that State Legal Services Authority. Then you can, of course, intern with companies. You must have seen your seniors, juniors, etc., interning with companies like Amazon, Netflix, etc. Now, they are, of course, the bigger ones. You can intern with the smaller companies as well. So, but again, that gives you a, an introduction to the corporate culture, or say how a company works, how it functions, what are the levels of hierarchy, and it can also give you an insight into whether, say, you would want to consider a career in, say, the in-house field or not, right? Next, a very interesting thing these days, which is being done by students, is startups. Now, say I know so many students who, who are suddenly interested in finance and technology, etc. So they started interning with fintech startups. Like say somebody, I know somebody who's interning at Cred. Now there are other people who are interning with Coinbase, etc. So it depends essentially what kind of startup also you like. You can intern with them. That is also, that organization is going to give you a lot of freedom, and you'll have a greater responsibility as well in a startup, right? And the culture is going to be very vibrant. But of course, like, do understand that, do your background check also about the startup, because it doesn't really mean that if say a startup looks really good, it has to be good from the inside as well. Make sure that when you're joining a startup as an intern or even as an associate later, the work environment is good. There's no haphazard activity going on in that startup, etc. And last is, of course, LPOs, which is legal processing outsourcing units. Now, LPO is a company that provides services to, say, clients in the UK, Australia, US, and all of that. So essentially, those services are being outsourced to Indian people. So it could be services like, say, contract abstraction or research or like legal design, etc. You can intern or say work with LPOs as well. So these are some very different types of internships that you guys should ideally be trying while you're in law school. Now, I don't say that the list is exhaustive, but this is just to give you like an overview of the fact that the world doesn't end with a law firm or a litigation chamber. There's much more for you to explore if you want to, right? So with that, we'll start with the timelines that should you choose a legal internship. Now, there would be very differing opinions on this. However, this is my opinion based on my experience, that there is no, as such, there is no any timeline for you to decide. Yes. Is there any difficulty?
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. I thought I heard somebody saying something. All right. So, say if there is no such particular timeline for you to think that that you have to do a particular internship in a particular year. Like it could be that you can do say a law firm internship in your first year also, or say in your final year also, or you can completely skip doing a law firm internship as well, right? So people have very differing opinions, and there are very artificially created timelines in the legal industry right now, wherein people would say that you should ideally do an internship in this period of time. Now, after having said that, there is a rider to the statement that I've made, that if you're not looking for any sort of placement, of course, there is no timeline for you, and you can keep exploring as much as you want to. And there is no correct time or there is no wrong time for you to intern at any given place, right? However, if you are looking at placement, like say, if you want to get a job while you are still in college, or say right after college, ideally, follow a path that gives you sufficient experience in a particular place. Like say, for instance, if you want a job at a law firm, right? So first and the second year of 5-year law school, of course, you can keep exploring different avenues. You can keep exploring different areas of law, etc. um, and you can read up on as many laws. You can try and publish on as many things as possible. When you reach the third year, do elementary internships in the preferred area of law. Like say, for instance, if you've chosen, say, technology laws, try and intern with very small law firms, humble law firms, modest law firms, or say, any lawyers that are doing well in cyber laws, technology laws, etc., and see whether you actually like the area of law when you actually start working in an organization that deals solely with that area of law, right? And fourth to fifth year of law school should be entirely devoted to serious internships in that area, so that your resume can become coherent. It can be in line with the area of law that you want to pursue later in life as well, after graduating out of law school. So like I started, there is no timeline for you to follow. However, if you're looking for a placement, if try and follow a basic set format of how an internship of set format of, say, in which year you should be doing which internship. So the idea, even say if you're looking for a placement, is that first 2 years you're free to explore as much, and by the third year start building your resume, and don't while away your time in exploring 20 different areas of law at that point in time. So this is the timeline. Now, there are additional factors as to say how you choose a legal internship. Now, of course, I've seen so many students struggling at an internship because they don't like the work environment, they don't like the boss, they don't like the colleagues, etc. And that internship, honestly, even if it's with the biggest law firm, even if it's with the smallest law firm of the country, it's not worth it, because work environment is something that's going to stay with you. Like, the experience that you've gotten at a place is going to stay with you till a very, very long period of time. And always try and stick to the work environment, like stick to a good work environment, because you're going to get scarred. Like, personally, when I interned at a few places in my starting years of law school, I had some bad and good experiences both. So the bad experiences scared me so much that I sort of shied away from interning at similar places in future, right? And that was like a very bad decision on my part, because of course, like, not to all places are similar. However, you should still pay attention to the work environment, and because it stays with you in a longer run, right? So always make sure that you talk to people who already previously interned there, that how was the boss like, was there any sort of particular sort of mentorship happening at this place, how are the colleagues, is there any office politics, etc., what is the behavior of your other people who are working in this organization or not. Next is, of course, for some organizations there are reviews also. Like, there are a lot of websites these days that give you internship experiences. Try and read internship experiences. There are Google reviews also for a lot of organizations. You can read those reviews as well, and figure out for yourself that whether this place is worth interning or not. Then, of course, practical skills. Now, see, now practical skills is very overrated. Now, I've seen so many students saying that we just got, like, say proofreading at this place and we didn't get any practical skills. But see, proofreading or cross referencing a document is also extremely important, and it's akin to practical skills. Like, if you don't know how to cross reference a document, how will you in future draft that document, right? So, and plus, how will you gain trust of the team? So don't be very hell-bent on practical skills also, because there are sometimes, like, very small skills also that you would require as, say, an intern to know to become like a successful advocate later. So just to give you a very quick example, so when I was interning when I was working as an associate at Dua Associates, um, like, of course, like, our office had a law clerk, etc., and I was working in the dispute resolution team. So once the clerk was on a holiday and we had to file something in the court, and none of the associates, including me, we were very clueless about filing, right? Because we had not handled filing as such. And my boss, who was a partner at the law firm, and who had, like, I think more than 20 25 years of experience of working in the legal sphere, was the only person who could actually, like, conduct that filing and take the case forward. And we were so surprised, and he said that in the initial days of my legal career, I didn't have a law clerk, I had to do everything on my own, right? And this is a liberty that I get when I say become experienced in life. And I'm very thankful for the privilege that I've gotten right now. But in the initial days, I didn't have the privilege, so I had to learn everything on my own, right? And that is something that helped me today. And the limitation of the petition was expiring on one particular day, and if we hadn't filed that case that particular day, we would have lost it. And the repercussions would have been really bad. So I think my boss taught me the lesson that practical skill set is, of course, important, and learning the basic skills is equally important for you to thrive as a lawyer, right? Then, of course, you should see that whether it's a research oriented internship. Now, there are a lot of organizations who would say that, fine, you come and intern with us and we'll just give you, like, only research work. Now, if they've already claimed this, then of course, you have no right to blame them to give you only research work. But sometimes doing only research, even after, say, working, say, with a lawyer or say with a law firm, becomes a little redundant for you as a growth, for your growth as an intern or as a lawyer, right? So take care of the fact and bear it in mind that if it's only a research oriented internship, is it something that I am personally interested in or not? Then, of course, stipend. Now, I am, of course, an advocate of the fact that there should be stipend for everything that we do, like for all the internships, for all the assistantships that we've ever done. However, the legal industry is not exactly, it doesn't think likewise, and it sort of says that, there shouldn't be stipend. Now, that's a very sad state of affairs, and that's a discussion for another day. But of course, if you feel that, that you would need stipend for something, then of course, you should ideally pick those internships and talk to the HR about the stipend, and only go ahead with it once they've confirmed the stipend and they've taken your bank details and everything, right? Otherwise, sometimes there have been instances wherein, say, offices have promised stipend and they've not given it later. Always make sure that the sort of terms and conditions that they've given to you, like while while you were asking for a stipend is not vague. Like they're not saying that it's a performance based stipend. Like some people might actually genuinely say that it's a performance based stipend, and they might as well give you the money also later. However, some people would, like, after say extracting a lot of work from you as an intern, would say, like, sorry, your performance wasn't good, and now we are not giving you a stipend, right? So it's always good to have clarity before you start working with an organization. Then, of course, areas of law. Then, you should always choose your internship pertaining to the area of law. And I've seen so many people just randomly picking up internships from a lot of websites that give you internship opportunities and just applying for all of them and doing whichever fits the bill for them, right? Now, you should make sure that your internship is actually in line with the area of law that I'm applying for. Like, say, for instance, say if I'm a corporate lawyer and all my internships are in the field of human rights, those internships, howsoever good might be, howsoever enriching might be, is not going to help me thrive as a corporate lawyer, right? So mind in bear it in mind that the area of law is equally important for you. Last is networking possibilities. Now this is a very underrated and a very like hidden sort of thing that you should be considering, and not many people consider it while they are interning. Now internship is not only to gain skill set, or say, to say thrive as a legal intern. It is also for you to network. Now I'm still in touch with so many, like, even after the fact that I'm into career coaching space in so many years, I'm not even practicing law per se at this point in time, but I'm still in touch with some of my colleagues that I had interned with while I was in law school, right? So, like, and they're in touch with me still. And it has so happened that we've all helped each other at some point in time. It's not like that always they've helped me, or like it's or not like it's always I've helped them. It's always vice versa. And it's for some of the colleagues, it's not even like we've helped each other, but like we've helped each other grow. Like we've contributed to each other's growth in terms of, like, providing materials, providing reading references, apprising each other of the opportunities, etc., right? So networking is extremely important for a law student. Even if, say, you are from a legal background, you have a family who's helping you in terms of being set up as a lawyer, you still need networking on your own, right? Like, you need your own contacts. You can't thrive on your own for a very long period of time. So you need to develop your own contacts. Now, of course, co-interns, associates of the law firms, etc., are a very good opportunity for you to network with. Now, there's one aspect that students generally leave out on, that they don't actually go and interact with the boss, and they don't network with the boss. Now, you don't have to think that, I'll never be useful to the boss, right? Networking is not about being useful. It's about building professional relationships that can maybe possibly culminate into some professional favor at certain point in time, right? So you don't need to interact with somebody thinking that, oh, I'm just like a normal student, why would a partner want to interact with me? It's okay. Like, you also have your own independent opinion, you have your own independent personality, and there are a lot of, like, possibilities why they would want to speak with you, right? So always make it a point to speak with the highest authority of the organization and with the lowest authority, and, like, everybody else, and try and keep in touch with them. I'm not saying that, you have to every day, like, wake up and send them a message, of course not. But, like, at least try and possibly, keep in touch, so that they, at least they know about your existence, as on date. So these are some of the additional factors that you should be considering while, you choose your internships. Now, I'll quickly run you through three aspects before I open the floor for questions: that how to select litigation internships, how to select in-house, and how to select law firm internships. Now, how to select litigation internships is, see, now I understand that, like, there are a lot of famous lawyers in our country, and, like, they've been fighting a lot of, say, fancy cases, high profile cases of constitutional importance, etc., right? And those lawyers, they are really good. Like, they are very well experienced in their craft, and, like, everything that they've done is perfect in how they've done it, right? However, to intern with them just because they are very famous and, like, the internship looks fancy is not the correct approach to go. Like, yesterday I was just taking a mentorship call with somebody, and that person told me that, I want to intern with so and so advocate, and, like, he's really famous, I'm looking forward to the internship. So I said, do you know what the advocate deals with, like, which area of law the advocate is primarily dealing with? So he said that, no, I don't know, but, like, he's very famous. So, like, I just applied and I luckily got that internship. However, the point is that if you're not even aware of what the area of law the advocate deals with, what is the point of you interning? Like, what your why is not clear, that why are you interning with that advocate, right? He or she might be a very good advocate, but if till the time you don't have a particular objective in mind to go to that internship, there is no point for you to take that internship. Like, you can take it from me that that internship is not going to serve you well later in life, in terms of you putting that on the resume, because you are not clear on the learnings from that internship, right? So if, say, if you are somebody who wants to witness like very good arguments, you want to develop your oratory skills, you want to check how to deal with clients, how to deal with very big clients, etc. Of course, interning with a bigger famous advocate or a senior counsel is a good option. However, if you feel that I want to learn the craft of, say, filing, I want to learn drafting, I want to learn researching, I want to learn how to compile case briefs, how to read files, interning with a senior might not be a good option, because see, in a senior's office, according to the bar council's rules, they can't file a draft in their own name, right? Which is why their office is primarily being functioned on briefing. So like they are being briefed by junior counsels, and then they can go ahead and like say argue the case in the court, right? However, when you go to say a junior counsel's office, like somebody who has an experience of, say, like 8 to 9 years, they would have a lot of work for you. Like they can even send you to the registry for filing. They can even tell you to compile case briefs. They can even tell you to like even draft like few applications and very basic petitions, etc., right? So you should ideally be interning with somebody who has a bracket of, say, 5 to 8 years. Now I tell you how. Like, say, if somebody has now, of course, whatever I say today has exceptions. There are exceptions to this. However, this is something that's based on my personal experiences with internships. That somebody who has, say, 0 to 4 years of experience is somebody who's still learning the craft and who's still entered the industry and is relatively considered new, right? So that person is so busy in learning the craft himself or herself that they might not have the time to teach you a lot of things, right? However, if somebody has, say, settled in the profession, say, and has spent like 5 to 9 years of their time in litigation, they've learned a lot, and now they're relatively comfortable in the sphere of litigation, and they have an ongoing series of clients for them, right? And which is why you can, like, possibly intern with them, because they would be ready to mentor you. Now, somebody who's say 10 plus years of experience would be wanting to become a senior advocate, and would always be interested in briefing other senior counsels. So even that is not, in my opinion, a correct place to intern at. And of course, like how we've discussed about senior lawyers, right, the bar is like very different. So the idea is to and of course, like, say if you want to learn how to brief senior counsels, of course, interning with an advocate who has 10 plus years of experience is a very good place to be at, right? So this is how you should be selecting your litigation internships in terms of the experience. Now, in terms of which side of the law you want to represent, like, say if you intern with a government counsel, you will obviously see, like, how to deal with bulk matters, how to deal with say, an area of law from the government side, and how to, say, file appeals in that area, how to take the case forward till the time the government wins, right? Or say the government is not losing out. So you can intern with government councils, you can intern with, say, the double AG's office, you can intern with the AG's office, you can intern with the ASG's office, you can intern with the SG's office, the Solicitor General of India's office. Like, you can intern with any standing council of any government department also. Like, there are so many people who are, say, the standing council of, say, the municipal corporation of so and so city, right? You can intern with them as well, right? So this is also something that you should be considering. Next is, of course, subject specific lawyers. Like, there are certain lawyers who would take up any sort of matter that comes their way, and that is perfectly fine. And then there are counsels who are very specialized in a particular area of law. Like, say, if you check so the NCLT website, and you check which are the lawyers who are, or the NCLAT website, you check daily orders, you can see a lot of lawyers who are regularly appearing, and they're only appearing in the NCLAT or the NCLT Delhi bench, or like any other bench they're comfortable appearing in. And you'll see that they're very subject matter specific lawyers. Like, they only deal with IBC cases, right? And if you feel that you're inclined towards a very specific subject matter, of course, you can start interning with those lawyers. There are lawyers who specifically only deal with tax matters. There are lawyers who specifically only deal with competition law matters, etc. You can choose your internships accordingly if you feel you are particularly inclined towards a particular subject matter. Last is, of course, district court, high court, and supreme court. Now, in my opinion, in what I've experienced, I feel that district court and high court is a place where you should ideally be interning, because it's relatively slower than the Supreme Court, and you have greater opportunity to witness a lot of things that your lawyer is dealing with. Like, say, if you want to witness evidence, you want to witness the procedural aspect of the law, district court is the place where you should be. If you want to learn cross examination, you want to learn anything about the procedure of the law, district court is something that you should target at. Next is, of course, high court. If you want to see the oratory side of law, how the question, the law is being questioned, or say, how are the arguments being dealt on the questions of law, right? And how is oration being tackled at a particular organization. So high court is the place for that. And lastly, of course, supreme court. Now supreme court, in my opinion, I feel that is very fast, because the judges in the supreme court, like they have a lot of burden on them, and they have to hear matters of constitutional importance, so they don't really they're not inclined towards hearing longer arguments on all the cases, right? And which is why it's extremely fast. And when you intern at supreme court, you are not essentially aware of what happened at the district court and the high court unless you've read the file, right? And which is why you can't even understand what's happening in the case. Now you would say that, Ashna, we can obviously read the file, right? And then we can go and check supreme court proceedings. Now this is something that even I considered, that it's very easy. However, when I actually sat down to read the record, it was so difficult for me that I realized that, I can take like, say, 2 days and still not finish reading the entire record of what happened in the district court, then what happened in the high court, and then now subsequently why the case has reached the supreme court, right? So which is why, again, it's very easily said than it's done. Reading a file is also an art in which people take years to, become pro at it. So you might want to reconsider your decision of interning at the supreme court, right? So these are the factors on which, how you can select a litigation internship. Next is, of course, how to select an in-house internship. Now, first of all, check that, which is the industry that you are aiming at. Like, say, for instance, there could be banking industry. Now, say if tomorrow you want to intern with ICICI, it's a company, and you can intern there. However, the governing law for ICICI would be RBI regulations, right? Then you can intern with, say, say Ranbaxy. Now, Ranbaxy is also a company. However, the major thing that they make is like, medicines. So the governing law for them would be Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act, right? So similarly, it depends that which industry you want to pick. Accordingly, of course, pick the company that you would want to intern at. Like, say somebody would want to be in the private equity venture capital space, and they would want to deal with, say, the SEBI AIF regulations, ICDR, LODR regulations, etc. And then, of course, you can pick up any fintech startup, any fintech company, any investment company for that matter, right? So it depends the industry, and according to the industry, you decide the company, and that company decides the governing law for you that you'll study at that company, right? And then next is which department. Now, say if you intern with a company like, say, Tata or Amazon, they're big companies. They deal with almost everything, right? So which is why, it depends that which department you're being given. And even in the legal department, there are different bifurcated departments. There would be a department who deals with only corporate transactions. Another department would of course deal with, say, only the litigation bit of it. Some department would only deal with, say, the IP management part of it. So it completely depends that which is the sort of department that you are picking in terms of, the internship, the company that you are applying to, right? So these are the two factors that come in, light while you are, say, picking an in-house internship. And last is, of course, the law firm internship. That okay, now there is again a very huge misconception about, tiers. Like, a lot of students who come to me for a mentorship, they would always say that, Ashna, I want to intern in tier 1 firms, right? Now, interning in tier 1 is not something that is it's not like a greater addition on the CV. It's not giving you some sort of experience which, say, other firms are not going to give you, right? So basically, first of all, to dispel the myth that what are tiers, right, and who decides them, and what does it mean? Like, tiers are essentially divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can go on to like even 100, right? That doesn't matter, but it depends on who's, say, for instance, there is, say, there are tiers decided by legal 500, there are tiers decided by Asia Pacific chambers, etc. Now it depends on, say, how many employees you have, what type of clients you're dealing with, how many transactions you've closed this year, what is the sort of work environment you've had, are there any international clients that you've dealt with this year, etc., or not, right? So essentially tiers are divided on that basis. Now it doesn't matter if you're working, say, with a tier 5 firm or a tier 1 firm, till the time you're gaining practical skill set in terms of what you wanted to learn there, and you're actually gaining that, it doesn't matter if you interned with whichever tier of law firm, right? Now, of course, a tier one firm or a tier two firm would have greater expectancy from you, like expectations from you in terms of the experience that you've had, which is why it's always good to always intern with, like, tier 543 firms, and then you know, tier one and tier two firms. Now, what happens to firms that are not falling in any tiers, right? Now, see, these tiers are decided when a firm approaches these rankings and tells them that, listen, this is my data of the previous year, and now you please decide whether I'm eligible to fall in any tier or not, right? Now, there are some firms who don't fall in any tier. That doesn't matter. That doesn't showcase anything about like how good or bad they are. And secondly, there are certain firms who are not interested in, falling in tiers. Like, I'm not naming any firms, but I personally know so many firms who are like really good, and like they are capable of, say, even becoming tier two, tier three for that matter, but they're not applying because it's just not their policy to apply to such
इसमें सारे
rankings, because
सीनियर हमारे
they are just like I'm sorry, is there any difficulty?
No, ma'am, please continue.
Okay, Neha, can you please mute whoever's speaking?
Sure, ma'am.
Yes. Of course, like, there are firms who don't fall in any tiers, and that doesn't showcase anything. You can very well intern with those firms as well and still gain a lot of practical skill set, right? Lastly, there are some firms who would give you exposure to work, and and there are some firms who would just like onboard you as an intern and not make you do anything. So, like, be aware of such organizations and like read Google reviews and internship experiences. Then, of course, area of law. Now, again, I've seen so many people just very randomly interning with all possible law firms that they've gotten an opportunity to intern with, and that is essentially not in your benefit, because you can't intern with every possible organization and then suddenly one day decide to work at a law firm, because then there will be no coherence in the CV. So make sure that the area of law that you're interning with is in line with the interest that you have, right? And of course, like, placement opportunities. Now, there are some very small firms who would give you practical skill set but will not have any placement opportunity for you because they're very small and they don't have the bandwidth to hire anybody else, right? So with that said, of course, you might want to intern with them, but not in the longer run, because the internship should ideally culminate into a work opportunity if it's a long term internship, right? And if you already can see that there is no placement opportunity with a particular organization, of course, you should try and reconsider your decision and try and intern with some other law firm as well. And lastly, does this internship allows itself to become a stepping stone or not, in terms of whether you can network, whether you can get a referral from this law firm or anything of that sort. If you feel that this particular law firm is allowing you to do all of that, then you might as well want to intern with them also, right? So I think with that, we've reached the end. So if you have any queries, you can of course ask me right now as well. You can put them in the chat box, or you can connect with me on my Instagram, which is Career Solutions by Ashna Jain. I'm very active on my Instagram channel. You can always come back there and connect with me there. So with that, I've reached the end of the session. If there's anything that I can answer, I'll be more than happy to.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The session was very enlightening. Thank you so much. Ma'am, I would like to put forward some questions. Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
Ma'am, the first question is, how do we find an internship that is related to research assistant?
So you can, of course, just simply type like, say, research assistant. Okay. So what you can do is you can first of all identify that, say, okay, say I want to intern with in technology laws. Okay. This is the research assistantship that I want to. Then you can check some law schools, or even in your own law school, you can check, are there any professors who are dealing with technology laws or not? And then go to their law school's website and check what are the projects that they are currently working on, right? You can find out the professor's email ID very easily. You can either connect with them on LinkedIn, or you can, like, just go to the college website and see what their email ID is. Always write them an email saying that, how you're interested in this, what is the sort of project that you've been working on, or the project that they are working on, and how you can contribute to their project, and attach your writing sample with that. And I think that should be more than enough for you to get a research assistantship opportunity with the professor. Now, you can not only do this with Indian professors, you can do this with professors from, Harvard, Yale, etc., all of that. And that also gives you a greater advantage in terms of, say, if tomorrow you want to apply to say, and for an LM in Ivy League universities, of course, that is a very good opportunity for you to take up while already doing a research assistantship with a professor from that particular college. So yeah,
Okay, ma'am.
that.
Thank you. And the second question is, what should we keep in mind while we are in a interview with the leading firm?
Okay, so if it's an internship interview, or say whether it's job interview, however it is, you need to keep in mind certain aspects that say your why interning with the law firm should be very clear, because they're definitely going to ask you that why do you want to intern with us or work with us. Then of course your basic HR questions like say introduce yourself, or like where do you see yourself in 5-10 years, what's your life story, who's your idol, or like anything related to your personality. Say what would your friends tell me about you, how would your teachers describe you to me, etc. All of those questions should be very crystal clear in your mind. And thirdly, the technical bit of it, like say when you're applying to a leading firm, they would ideally be hiring you or say taking you on board for a very particular team, right? So if say you are being hired say for a general corporate team, just for an example sake, you should be very thorough with Companies Act, FDI rules, PEMA, and Contracts Act, etc. And last element is second last is of course your resume. Be thorough with the resume. Now when I say thorough, I mean actually thorough with the resume. That say if you've interned at some place 4 years ago and you've written that on the CV, you should be very clear even today what is the updated position on the research that you did at that point in time. And lastly is the commercial awareness. Now commercial awareness is whatever is happening in the society. Like say if today somebody asks you about Russia and Ukraine's dispute, you should be very well in a position to answer that, even though it doesn't consider at all for like general corporate. And they can even ask you questions like say what how is the market being affected, because one day the market goes down, the other day the market goes up because of Russia Ukraine dispute, and that's actually affecting the market. So that they can ask you questions about the budget, they can ask you questions about the hijab controversy, they can ask you anything that's happening in the society today. And generally you are supposed to know things that are happening. So one example that I can give you from my internship is that while I was being interviewed for a PPO at a law firm, the partner asked me that can you give me the constitutional validity of demonetization. Now this was back in I think 2016 when I was being interviewed, and demonetization had just happened a month before my interview. So then I was taken aback. I was like, I'm sitting for corporate law. I don't know why he's asking me questions on constitutional law, right? However, when I came out of the interview room, I reflected upon the question, and I really figured out that okay, fine, I should have known this because I'm a law student and I should have been aware of what's happening in the society legally also. So this is something that this is the entire ambit of say how you can prepare for the questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, another question is on what aspects we need to focus on getting a placement in companies.
Again, that's a very long discussion. Of course, it'll take me another hour if I start speaking on that. But yes, of course, try and be consistent with, the internship. Like, say, if you want to get placed with a particular law firm or a company, try and at least intern with them twice or intern with them for long term, like at least 2 to 3 months. Network as much as you can, make everyone aware of your existence, take regular feedback, submit assignments in the format that is being given to you, draft appropriate emails, and of course be polite, and yes, apprise them that you want to work with them, because till the time you don't go ahead and tell them that I want to work with you in the longer run, they are not going to consider you for any position. So that's something that you can do.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, and how should we approach any person that we wish to intern via email or
I think, of course, like email is cold emails are something that and I think who's the people who are connected with me on Instagram already know that how much I've emphasized upon cold email and their importance and how they should be drafted. Like cold email is something that you can always reach out somebody with and tell them that how you can contribute towards their existing projects or the work that they do. And I think approaching on LinkedIn for work is essentially not a good practice, because LinkedIn is essentially for say connections. But if you have a different perspective on this, of course you can. But in my opinion, I think cold emails are better suited for this.
ma'am, the role of CV in getting a good internship?
I think this is as much as I emphasize. This is like this is extremely important. I think this is one of the most important things that possibly can happen. And of course, like try and pay as much importance to this as possible.
Ma'am, just last question. if we aim to become an international lawyer,
Sure.
so what are the internships that we should aim to?
You should ideally aim at interning or say, getting a vacation scheme with a Magic Circle law firm. Magic Circle law firms are the ones that are, they have a global presence and they are headquartered in the UK. I can name a few, which are Clifford Chance, Allen Overy, Linklaters, etc. Some of them have scraped out their vacation schemes. Some of them do have. A vacation scheme is a two-week internship with those international law firms where you go and intern with them, and post that they interview you and they directly give you a job offer after 2 weeks of internships. However, I put this very directly, and it's not so simple also. Like it's very competitive, like only like around 20-25 students all over India get selected for such Magic Circle law firms. So I think this is something that you should be considering if you want to become an international lawyer.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All the other questions I'll put you through WhatsApp or email.
Sure. Sure.
Now I would like to request Anurag sir to give ma'am the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Neha. A very good afternoon to all present here. On behalf of Law Club, Prestige Institute of Management and Research, Gwalior, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for the session, Legal Internship and Overview. My heart fills with lot of gratitude and thanks for the research person, Ms. Asna Jain, founder Career Solution, for not only sparing her valuable time, but also developing the vision and enlightening our students pertaining to legal internship. Thanking you for clearing the concept and enhancing the understanding and importance of legal internship in any law student's career. You have indeed put best of your effort to make this session successful. So thank you so much, ma'am. Next, I would like to extend my thanks to the respected director, sir, Professor Dr. Sarup Kumar Mohanty, respected Deputy Director, Commerce, IT and Law Department, Professor Dr. Tarika Sekarwar ma'am, and respected Head of the Law Department, Professor Dr. Prabal Pratap Singh, for their continuous guidance, support, and motivation. I would also thanks to all the respected faculty colleagues of the Prestige Gwalior for their relentless and continuous support, and special thanks and recognition to the student volunteers for making this session successful. Last but not the least, and a special thanks to all the students for joining this session. Thanks again, and thank you all.
Thank you, Anurag sir. And thank you, Ashna ma'am. It was a very, very wonderful session. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
I would like to ask Prabal sir if you can end the session.
Yes, please end the session. Thank you, Asna ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, very wonderful.
All the students, please wait. While Ashna ma'am, if you want, you can. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, all the students, I have put a link in the chat box. You need to fill it for EML attendance purpose. It will only be activated for 15 minutes, so fill it as soon as possible.
Sir?
Prabal,
Yes.
Yes,
sir, in the meeting.
Okay.